University of Manchester. My name is Arif Khurshed, and I'm a professor of finance at the university here. I'm very pleased that many of you could join us for what is called a unit spotlight. This is one of the courses we will teach you on MSc Financial Management, and the course is called Foundations of Finance. So very quickly, a bit of a background about myself. I'm a professor of finance. I joined Manchester almost 20 years ago after I finished my PhD at University of Reading. And it was my pleasure to be involved with the development of your master's program from the very beginning, which we started about 2 years ago. So I was tasked at looking into a new program where we use blended learning, and where rather than you come to us, we come to you. So the idea was to reach out to people who are looking to move into the world of finance, who are already working in the field of finance, and to give them the skills and the knowledge that will take them in their careers further down the line. So I was not only involved in developing your new MSc Financial Management, but I will also be teaching one of the core courses or one of the earlier courses on the program, and that is called the Foundations of Finance. In terms of my own background, I teach across the board. So I teach undergraduates, I teach the MSCs. We also have a thriving MBA program, global MBA as well. So I teach across the board, including the PhDs. At Manchester, we're very proud that we are not only good teachers or try to be good teachers, but at the same time, research also dictates what we do. And in terms of my research interests, I have been very keen into looking as to how companies raise finance so that they can grow. And within this, my areas of expertise lie in initial public offerings or IPOs. As many of you would have read about the IPO activity, we had one of the largest IPOs ever done by Saudi Aramco, raising about $25 billion a few months ago. Similarly, companies like Facebook and Alibaba at some point of time needed a lot of money, and they ended up doing an IPO. So I look at why companies do an IPO and how do they prepare for an IPO, and how do they interact with investment banks which help them with the IPO, and what are the issues that emerge in the area of finance when we look at initial public offerings. I also look at trade credit, which is the reality of life. So why companies provide trade credit and how trade credit changes from one period to the other. Venture capital is another source of finance for many companies. So how do VCs select their firms? What is the risk and return for VC investments? In the last 20 years or so, we have seen a large number of Western VCs moving towards emerging markets. So how do they choose their targets and so on? So this is also something that I look into. Very recently, I got into politics and entrepreneurship. So the idea is that if you have someone, an entrepreneur who started his or her business empire through connections with politicians and then ultimately became a politician themselves, what do we expect of them? And the idea is that what we call rent-seeking theory is that when you have power, you can misuse it, and you can use your power to bring more wealth for yourself. In other words, you expropriate a nation's wealth. So I'm very excited working on a paper at the moment that looks at Thailand, the ex-Prime Minister Shinawatra, and we have data for the last 25, 30 years on his business empire. So that's something new for me. And also, I'm very passionate about financial literacy. This is something that is way beyond what I do, but what we felt here was at Manchester that we have a duty of social care. And in that respect, I was very keen to interact, especially with our young audience, the children in schools. So what we do is, my colleagues and I, we visit schools around Greater Manchester, and we speak to children about financial management. So how do they look at saving and expenditure? Do they understand what happens when you do not pay your credit card debt? What is a credit score, and mobile phone contracts? So this is something quite new, but it also gives you a sense as to what kind of research takes place at Manchester. And the reason I talk about research is that when you join our program, you'll be taught by people who are not only specialists in teaching on blended programs, but they're also specialists in their own areas. And the meaning of this is that when we do an e-lecture with you, or when you come to us for a face-to-face workshop, or when we have interactions on the Blackboard through discussion forums, we would be able to guide you, and we would be able to share with you what is happening in the real world in terms of that particular topic, because very likely your teachers would be doing research in the area in which they'll be teaching you on your MSc Financial Management program. Along with my research, I have also been invited as an external consultant to the UK regulator, which is called the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority. I've also been a consultant to the British Venture Capital Association, and very recently I have been an expert witness in a corporate dispute at a London London court, because of the kind of work that I do on initial public offering. So this is a bit about a background on myself. Let me now take you to the next part of my talk. So, is this new MSc program right for me? I mean, this is an important question that you definitely need to look into before you make an application, or before you decide to come and join us on the program. I'll ask you a question. Are you looking for a change in your career? Or perhaps you're already working in the financial industry, but you have a limited finance background, and that you would like to see a master's program that will help you to develop your financial skills even further. If the answer is yes, then this course is suitable, especially for professionals who are looking to sort of move ahead, step into what we call a mid-level managerial role, or even for those people who are looking to change their career and move into the financial services sector. When you go and join a master's program in financial management or in finance in general, what you will be asked of is that your undergraduate degree is in finance, but this is the requirement. However, our MSc Financial Management does not require that you have done finance in your undergraduate degree, and this is really a distinguishing feature of our program. And if you look into programs being run by other universities, very unlikely you will find a program that does not require that you have your undergraduate degree in the relevant subject. However, for us, you don't need to be in finance. You don't need to have studied finance. It is our job to teach you finance when you start the course, and it is our responsibility to walk with you. And by the time you finish your MSc, you would be a master's, you will be a specialist. So there is a lot of hard work, but then the program has been structured in a way that we don't assume that you have got background in finance. So we will teach you from the very start, but we will move on very, very quickly. The other important thing about the program is it is part theory and it is part practical. And this is a very important aspect of MSc Financial Management. We want to teach you the theoretical underpinnings of how financial decisions are made, because then you make very informed decisions. But at the same time, we also will give you an opportunity to apply that theory into practice. And how will we do that? The kind of assignments you will be doing in your modules, the projects that you'll be working on, they will allow you to apply all the knowledge that you will gain by going through the course material, through all the interactions in the face-to-face workshops. You'll be able to apply all that knowledge into real-world scenarios. Where needed, we will be using real-world case studies, giving you a problem. And before we give you a problem, we will give you the background of the problem, what theory suggests, what empirical evidence suggests, what is expected of a good finance manager. And then we give you a problem. And then we say, well, apply that knowledge and give us a solution. And that brings theory into the real world. So you will have a lot of hands-on experience of applying theory into the real world as you progress from the first semester to the second to the third, and then to the fourth semester of your program. MSc Financial Management is a part-time program. It is a 2-year blended learning course. We use the word blended because it's not only online, it is also face-to-face, which is another distinguishing feature of MSc Financial Management. For 6 days every semester, you will come to us either in Shanghai or in Manchester for a very intense 3+3. So we will have 2 courses, and for every course you will have a 3-day face-to-face workshop where your course convener will stand up lecture style with the whole cohort, and we will go through the rigor of what we have been studying, what the topics are, and then towards the end of the face-to-face workshop, you'll actually be making a presentation based on usually a case study. And for that reason, we call it blended learning. So this would be a 2-year part-time blended learning program that will include online content. There will be interactive study. There will be face-to-face workshops, and the team that I have with me that will help us on the MSc Financial Management is seen as Europe's one of the most experienced accounting and finance academics, because almost everyone who will teach you on MSc Financial Management understands the model of blended learning. And the reason for this is that almost all of them have been teaching for many, many years on a global MBA, which is exactly on the same lines as the new MSc Financial Management. It is also a blended learning program. We have got brilliant resources at Manchester, and you will have access to some of the most extensive financial databases and learning material around anywhere in the world. And why is that important for you? Because what you will see is that when we teach you a particular topic in a particular course, we then ask you to go and apply that knowledge into real world. Testing is a very important aspect of learning in financial management. So you understand this is how it should be, but does it really happen? How can you do that? You can collect some data and you can test and see, well, this particular theory that we were taught about in the class, does it really work in real world? So I downloaded share price data from London Stock Exchange, and do I observe what I was expecting? Do I not? If I don't, what could be the reason? So it really gives you a lot of food for thought to keep on asking questions, and you become very critical about whatever you see and read, and that's what makes you a better manager, in my opinion. So you will have one of the best financial databases and other resources available to you if you join us at Manchester. Let me share with you how the program will run. So this is quite a quick summary of the course schedule and outline. So this is year 1 of the program. We will be starting in September 2020, and the first semester will run all the way up to end of February 2021. In the first semester, you will have 2 course units, Foundations of Accounting and Foundations of Finance. For these 2 starting courses, because they are foundations, this is where we will bring the whole cohort in line, right? So if you have a background in finance and or accounting, if you do not have a background in accounting or finance, by the end of these 2 courses, the whole cohort would be on the same page. Your skills, your knowledge set will all be exactly on the same page, so that we then are ready to move on to the second semester. For the Foundations of Accounting, as I said earlier, we will have a face-to-face workshop, a 3-day face-to-face workshop, which will take place in the UK. And then we will also have a 3-day face-to-face workshop that will take place in Shanghai. We have the 1st to the 6th of September as the date set out for Foundations of Accounting face-to-face. So that will be the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then 4th, 5th, and 6th of September, you will have the Foundations of Finance workshop that will take place in Manchester. And then later on in the same month, starting on the 14th, you will have your Foundations of Accounting face-to-face in Shanghai. And immediately after that, 17th, 18th, and 19th September, we will have the Foundations of Finance. What I will do is, for Foundations of Finance specifically, I will be taking the face-to-face workshop in the UK, and I will also be flying out to Shanghai and do the face-to-face of Foundations of Finance in Shanghai as well. So this would be the plan that we will have for the first semester. Moving on to the second semester of year 1, we will start towards the end of February, very early March, and then the second semester will take you all the way up to the end of August. In your second semester, you will have another set of 2 courses, Corporate Finance and Global Financial Markets. Along with these 2 courses, this will also be the semester where we will start preparing you with your project that will come towards the very end of your program. And for you to do a project, you need the skills, the quantitative skills, So we will start teaching you slowly data analysis and statistical techniques, which are not a course in themselves, but they are a part of your project, which is an extremely important part of your MSc program. So slowly, from the second semester to the third semester, we will create all the skills in the background so that by the time when you arrive in the final semester, the fourth one, you have all the statistical skills to look at a project, to look at a problem, a financial issue, and then work on it using data. So this is the extra bit that you will have in the second semester. The dates for the 2 workshops in the second semester are also set. So from the 17th to the 22nd of May 2021, we will have the corporate finance and the global financial markets face-to-face workshops in the UK, followed by the same workshops in Shanghai from the 24th to the 29th of May next year. So let me just very quickly give you a sense of how we will teach, what we will teach on the program. Foundations of Finance would be one of the very first courses you will do on the program. So what's the idea? What are the learning objectives? What do we expect to achieve after you have finished your Foundations of Finance course? The idea is that we would like to develop our understanding of the fundamentals of finance. And once you have these fundamentals of finance clear to you, you will then have a foundation. You are ready for subsequent finance units in the second semester, third, and then in the final semester program. And the whole idea is that these fundamentals of finance, as we will teach you, you will be able to apply the general principles of finance to analyze new financial management problems as they arise in your company or where you expect to work later on in your life or even in your own company, so that all the theory and the practice that we give you should help you to solve financial management problems. So the focus will be on solving financial problems. In terms of the topics that will be covered in this module, we will start with an introduction to finance. So if someone asks you, what do you mean by finance? Finance means different things to different people. However, we all agree that finance is about valuing future cash flows and what affects these cash flows. There are different elements to finance. So money is the most important part of finance. So we all make financial decisions because we want to earn money on behalf of our company, on behalf of ourselves, on behalf of our bank, if you're working in a bank. So money is an important element of finance. What you will also learn is information is also an important element of finance. Risk is an important element of finance. Return as well. And in many countries around the world, taxation is also an important element of finance. We will start with the very basic ideas in finance, the definition, the elements of finance, and then very quickly we will move on to one of the fundamental ideas in the world of finance, and that is the time value of money. So what do I mean by time value of money? So imagine you are my finance manager. You make decisions. You grant trade credit to new customers. So imagine you sold a machine worth £50,000 to a new client, and the client said, I will pay the £50,000 not tomorrow, not today, but in 9 months from now. Is £50,000 9 months from now the same as £50,000 today? The answer is no. A pound today is not the same as a pound tomorrow or in 1 year's time. So the question is, why is that the case? And the reason for this is, whatever you can buy today for a pound, if there is inflation in the economy, the same good will cost you a lot more in 1 year's time. So in other words, the purchasing power of your money goes down when there is inflation. So it's better for you to have a pound today as compared to a pound next year. The other reason why a pound today is not the same as a pound next year is that there is an opportunity cost. If I had the pound today, I could invest that to make more money over the next 12 months. Because I don't have that money, I have what is called an opportunity cost. And this is a fundamental idea in the world of finance. This is what our managers, this is what our bankers need to know and be very clear about when they're making financial management decisions. So we will start with the idea of time value of money, and then very quickly you will see that this idea of time value of money actually has got a number of applications throughout the course. So we will talk about valuation of securities. What do you mean by securities? An example of a security is a share in a company. So if you buy a British Telecom share, you have bought a security. If you buy a bond of company Ford, then you have bought a security. And as we all know, shares trade in the share market, bonds trade in the bond market. For those of us who are interested in buying or selling shares and bonds, you can see the price online. The important thing for us is whatever price we see for a particular company's share, is it a fair price or is it not? So how do you figure this out? Unless and until you know techniques of valuation, you may end up overpaying if you're making an investment in shares or in bonds, or you may end up selling at a lower price than what it should be. So we start with the idea of valuation of bonds. We will then see how do we do valuation of shares. We will have a lot of practice questions in this. So by the end of this particular topic, you will have an idea of how do I value financial securities. We then move on to how do you finance your company. So we look into different sources of finance. We will look at bank finance. We will look at venture capital. We will look at angel finance. We will also look at what happens when a company decides to go on a stock exchange and conduct what is called an initial public offering, an IPO. From the financing of a firm, we will move on to what is called the cost of capital. And what do you mean by cost of capital? When you run a company, you need capital. So the capital has to come from somewhere. It could be a borrowing. It could be by selling shares and getting the cash. Whenever people give you capital, people give you money, they expect a return. And this return is called the cost of capital. Every company has a cost of capital, and every finance manager needs to understand what is the cost of capital for their own company. So we will look into how we calculate the cost of capital and what are the applications of the cost of capital of a company. After this topic, we will move on to what is called capital budgeting. This is another extremely important area in finance. And the idea of capital budgeting is that, once again, if you are the finance manager of a firm, you've got two very important jobs to do on a regular basis. First is called the investment decision. What new investments should your company be making? And why is that an important question? Because we will all agree that for a company to survive, the company has to make investments. For a company to make investments, it has to look for new projects, as we call them. So maybe you're running a firm and you're looking into changing the current technology that you use in producing your goods. So you want to change your machines. We call this a project in finance. Or maybe you're looking at a joint venture with a partner firm in Brazil because you want to start selling your products in South America. This joint venture is also seen as a project in finance. Maybe you want to start a new factory because you want to increase your output. All of these decisions, occasions, they are called projects, and your job as a finance manager is to select the right projects on behalf of your company. And the process of selecting the right projects on behalf of your company is called capital budgeting. So how do you know, even before you start a project, if this project will be good for my company? Fortunately, we have tools and techniques that will help us, that help the finance managers to decide if a particular project that they are looking into is good, will create value for the company, or will it not? So we will spend a lot of time looking at capital budgeting. When you look at capital budgeting, you will realize why I teach you about time value of money at the start, why I teach you about cost of capital before I teach you capital budgeting, because all of these ideas will play a role when you're making capital budgeting decisions. When we finish capital budgeting, we move on to risk and returns, another very important area of finance. So what is the meaning of risk? How do we calculate risk? Is there a way in which we can quantify the risk of an investment? The answer is yes. At the same time, what is a return on investment, and how do we calculate the return on investment? So we will study about risk and return and the relationship between these two. The very final topic in the course would be share price behavior and information efficiency. So I'm sure for those of you who have interest in the stock markets, You would have observed, and you know for sure, that the share prices change on a regular basis, sometimes a few times within a day. So the question is, why do share prices change? The answer to this is, whenever new information comes to the market, it is expected to have an impact on the share price. So if it is unexpected good news, you would expect the share price to rise. If it is unexpected bad news, you would expect the share price to go down. All of this idea of information coming to the market is studied under informational efficiency of the stock market. So what is informational efficiency? What role do informationally efficient stock markets play? How do we study share price behavior? How do we calculate share returns? This is what we will do in the last topic of this course. In terms of the assessment for Foundations of Finance, the good news is there are no exams. In fact, for your whole MSc Finance program, you will not have exams, because we understand having an exam gives you anxiety. It is also difficult given that you'll be doing part-time learning. So what we have done is we have taken away exams and we have replaced exams by 2 assessments. 2 assessments is also what you will see in all the other courses of the program. So for Foundations of Finance, the first assessment will be during your face-to-face workshop. It will be group work. I'll give you a case study. I will give you the skills of how you tackle the case study questions, and then by the end of the 3rd day of your face-to-face workshop, you will be standing up in front of your peers and making a presentation on your solution to the case study. And the case study that I have picked up for you is a Mexican soft drinks company that is trying to decide if it should launch a sugar-free cola or not. So this is the new project for the company. A lot of information is given to you about the forecast of how the sugar-free cola is expected to sell in the next few years, what are the problems, what will be the cost. So you will take all this information together and provide a solution to this Mexican company should you go ahead and launch your sugar-free cola or not. Another very interesting aspect of this case study is that it also talks about corporate social responsibility. In other words, I would like these teams to think about this whole discussion of sugar versus sugar-free, right? So what you will see is that you will not only use financial techniques to come up with a solution. What you will also see is that finance is not or does not work in isolation. You have to think about other issues of like marketing. You also have to think about other issues such as social responsibility. So other skills that are very important in running a company or being a good finance manager or a good banker, they will come into play when you make these decisions. So this will be your first assessment. The second assessment will be an individual assignment, which will come to you towards the end of your course. So this would be at the end of the first semester. And this would be a case study once again on the IPO of Facebook that took place in 2012. So at that time, Facebook raised more than 17 billion US dollars by selling millions of shares to new investors. So what really happened? Why did Facebook do an IPO? How did it prepare for an IPO? What happened at the time of selling its shares? What happened beyond? So you will read this case study. I've also written a book on IPOs, which will be made available to you as an ebook on the program. So you will get an insight as to how companies prepare for an initial public offering, what happens in initial public offering, and after reading all that and discussion on the discussion forums, you'll be prepared to tackle the assignment questions I will set for you in the case study of the Facebook IPO. So this would be your second and final assignment, which will be an individual assignment. And this will then bring an end to the assessment to the Foundations of Finance course. In terms of the learning resources available, all material, including introductory videos, topic notes. So when you will go to our online learning platform, you will see all the resources available to you. All the topics I was mentioning in the previous slide will be there. When you click on a topic, you'll be getting the resources such as the topic notes. So go through the topic notes, then I will ask you to go and read a relevant section from your ebook. Then I'll ask you to go and do some self-assessment questions. Then I'll give you a quiz. Then I will give you some practice questions. And then there will be some discussion on the online forum to understand and to look at how we can connect that particular topic's learning to what is happening around us. So something very topical that would come up around the time when we are studying about these topics. So all of that material, including mini case studies after every topic, they will be made available to you on Blackboard. I will also give you a learning schedule. I will be in touch. I will be available through the discussion forums and so on. So at the end of the line, you will have someone who's there to speak to you, to answer your queries, and that's how it'll be more like a social learning between yourselves, between your teachers and yourselves. So this is about the learning resources. We have got 2 textbooks for the course. They'll be made available to you as ebooks. You don't have to buy them. We'll send you a link, and when you click on the link, you can download the books. So one would be the textbook that will cover all the topics except the IPO, and the other one is my own book that specifically looks at the area of initial public offerings. And both of these textbooks will be made available to you by the university free of cost. I'm expecting that discussion forums on Blackboard will be alive and kicking. So when you read about something and you're not sure, or you have a point to make, you will write something up. Someone will pick this up and the conversation starts. I will keep an eye on the discussion, and I will interject or contribute when need be. If not, I want you to think about your own experiences, about what really interests you. Or if you read something in the Financial Times and say, oh, I'm not really sure about why did this happen? Or, in other words, I want you to start thinking about all the theory that you'll be learning with us and from us as to how do you apply into the events happening around you, not only in the West, but also in other parts of the world. Also included in your learning resources are 2 online lectures. So one lecture will take place after the workshop, somewhere around the middle of the course, and the other online lecture will take place towards the end of the semester, and the online lectures will be in a similar format as I'm speaking to you today. So you'll be able to see me, hear me, and also see my slides, and then towards the end of the lecture, you will have the opportunity to ask me questions, and then I will be responding to the questions and queries. So this is what we will do over the 2 online lectures. Every course unit will have 2 online lectures as well. So some practical details of the course. It's a blended learning course, including online interactive study. As I said earlier, there will be face-to-face workshops either in Manchester or in Shanghai. I'm expecting that you will put in somewhere around 10 to 15 hours of study per week. I understand that depending upon if you are working or your other time sort of using issues, maybe there are some weeks when you are only able to give few hours, 4 or 5 hours, and there are other weeks when you can really catch up. It's entirely up to you. There'll be flexibility, but at an average, about 10 to 15 hours per week should be sufficient for you to do very well on your course and program. This will be a 2-year program, but it is also flexible. So if you need more time, so you can stop the clock, you can skip a semester, and then you come back when you're ready. So there is flexibility. You don't, if you can't, you don't need to really finish it off in 2 years. Method of learning: online tutorials, video content, interactive learning with your peers, face-to-face teaching through the workshops, as I was explaining to you earlier. At the same time, you will also have dedicated study advisor who will support you on the program. So where will this MSc Financial Management program take you? Depending on your career ambitions, we have designed this program to equip you with a very good understanding of the tasks that finance professionals undertake. So what kind of problems do financial professionals face, and how do they solve these problems? And our hope is that what we will teach you in the program will equip you with all the necessary skills that will help you support, first of all, your career progression into finance sector, or if you want to move into finance sector, then you will also find what we have taught you will help you to answer the financial management problems. What happens after you finish your master's? So upon completion, you will be able to apply your learning to real world projects and problems and professional experience, allowing you to remain a step ahead of your peers. I think this program is a great opportunity for anyone who's looking to go into what is a mid-level management position in the sector of finance. At the same time, you will also be a part of a global network. So you will develop your network because you will be interacting with people from all around the world, and this is a really important aspect of the program. You will be engaging with peers from different sectors as well, coming from different parts of the world, as well as industry academics, specialists, and also policymakers.
Excellent, thank you for that, Arif. So I am Katie, I am your course advisor for MSc Financial Management. So if you have any questions, then you're more than welcome to contact us today. So you can contact us via studyonline@manchester.ac.uk. We also have a few upcoming webinars at the moment. So in March and April, we have some more insight sessions. So our course director, Amadeo de Cesari, will be talking about what's happening in global markets. And we'll also be having an information session about discount scholarships and the application process with the admissions officer, Catherine Howard, and my colleague, Daisy James, who is also the course advisor for this course. So hopefully we have a few questions that we can go through if you want to help me with those, Arif. So I can see that we've had quite a few come through at the moment. So okay. One from Chris is asking whether we need to attend all the workshops in the UK and China, or we could just choose one location.
I think depending upon the center you register at, so if you register at the Shanghai center, the expectation is that most of the workshops you'll be doing, especially in the first year, would be in Shanghai. But then we're also looking into opening up Manchester Center for people from all around the world. But I think for the first year, or maybe certainly for the first semester, you would be in the center, depending upon where you register, either Manchester or in Shanghai. But I'm very hopeful that we will also open this up for you to move from Shanghai to Manchester if you wish. But at the moment, it's not been set yet.
And another question, is the graduation in Manchester?
Yes, the graduation is Manchester.
And one more. So I'm really interested in meeting and networking with others. Will there be lots of opportunity to meet each other and network with my colleagues?
Yes. So you have to be mindful of the fact that you will not be coming to the campus on a daily basis where you meet people and network. You will still be wherever you are. So your networking would be virtual mostly. However, when you come for the face-to-face, that's when you will spend time and you will work on problems and you will see your workshop leaders and your course conveners. But of course, the networking will carry on from one semester to the other as you form your own networks, your own groups, because the learning will primarily be virtual rather than face-to-face.
And one question from Christina, will I be informed of the future seminars? So whether you mean the webinars that are coming up, I can send you the promotions for those and the dates for those. But also if you mean for the future seminars for the workshops, we do have dates already set for the ones in year 2, which I can send across to you as well. And maybe one more question. How is the course, how is the certificate set? So with the certificate, your degree certificate, it will not mention online learning or part-time learning.
No, it would not. No.
So you'll get a full master's
yes.
degree certificate from the University of
That's
Manchester.
Correct. You'll be at par with MSc Finance full-time. This is exactly the same model we use for the MBA. We have a full-time MBA on campus here. We also have what is called a global MBA, which is exactly like your program, MSc Financial Management. And there is no distinction in the certificate. There is no distinction in the graduation ceremony. You will have an MSc in Financial Management from University of Manchester.
Excellent. So if there's any questions that we have there that we've not answered, I will endeavour to get back to you in the meantime. But thank you very much, Arif, and we hope to see you on the Financial Management course soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.